Moscow believes that developing and fielding advanced counter-space weapons will deter aggression from adversaries reliant on space. If deterrence fails, Russia believes its counter-space forces will offer its military leaders the ability to control escalation through a selective targeting of adversary space systems. Another challenge is that space is becoming increasingly congested. In fact, when U.S. Space Command was reestablished just 5 years ago, we tracked around 25,000 objects per day on orbit. Today, we are tracking over 45,000 objects on orbit, representing an 80% increase since 2019. To understand why that is concerning, imagine something the size of a soccer ball or a football hitting a critical satellite at over 28,000 kilometers per hour, the speed it takes to stay in low Earth orbit. A single collision can have catastrophic and cascading effects, with impacts potentially lasting for years. Adding to this growing congestion, we expect tens of thousands more commercial satellites to be launched over the next 5 to 10 years, dramatically increasing the challenge of space traffic management. It's no surprise then that the sustainability of our domain is one of our principal concerns, so that humanity can continue to enjoy the benefits of space for generations to come. So, we are facing some complex challenges, and these challenges require a team approach to solve. At U.S. Space Command, we like to say that space is a team sport. Given the vastness of space and its criticality to our societies, no one country, command, service, department, agency, or company can achieve all that needs to be done in space by itself. That is why we employ a joint, combined, and partnered approach to space operations. We have built a team of international, commercial, interagency, and academic partners to accomplish our shared operational missions and to build a common understanding of space as it relates to national security interests. To that end, we have signed and maintain 195 agreements with international partners, commercial companies, intergovernmental organizations, and academic institutions, enabling real-time sharing of space data to promote mutual understanding. Our relationship with India is a key component of this approach. Since 2019, we have signed a space data sharing agreement with the Government of India, focused on safety of spaceflight and space domain awareness services and information. We have also signed similar agreements with 3 India-based commercial companies, Media Citra Industar, Dhruva Space, and Digantara. Additionally, back in February, India participated as an observer in Exercise Global Sentinel, our premier security cooperation effort, which this year brought together 28 nations to strengthen and grow international partnerships, improve operational collaboration, and promote responsible behaviors in space. We are also excited that in June 2023, India signed the Artemis Accords, a multilateral agreement developed by NASA and the U.S. Department of State. Signed by 43 countries, the Artemis Accords elaborate on the norms expected to be followed in outer space and provide for the operational implementation of important international obligations contained in the Outer Space Treaty and other agreements. These are encouraging steps for cooperation between the United States and India in space, but we hope this is just the start. However, our solution needs to incorporate many allies and partners critical to our collective success. At U.S. Space Command, we are focused every day on strengthening the relationships necessary to build the coalition of military space power required to defend against the collective threats we face in the domain. But we understand the inherent need to build this coalition in a manner that is consistent with international treaties and laws, but to also model responsible behaviors in space. That is why in July 2021, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin signed a document outlining tenets of responsible behavior in space. The document directs that U.S. Department of Defense organizations will conduct space operations consistent with the following tenets. First, the document specifies that we will operate in, from, and to space with due regard for others and in a professional manner. Second, we will limit the generation of long-lived debris. Third, we will avoid the creation of harmful interference. Fourth, we will maintain safe separation and safe trajectory from others' spacecraft. And finally, we will communicate and make notifications to enhance the safety and stability of the domain. We view these tenets as critical elements of maintaining space as a place where all countries can continue to operate freely to derive the benefits of the domain for their citizens. But failure to adhere to the good practices laid out in the tenets of responsible behavior puts everyone at increased risk of collisions as well as miscalculations and misunderstandings. As a global leader in space, we view it as incumbent on the United States to execute and demonstrate responsible behavior in space. In leading by this example, U.S. Space Command also encourages its allies and partners to adhere to these same tenets. But unfortunately, we don't always see the same commitment from our competitors, namely the PRC and Russia. Both have conducted actions on orbit which we do not believe align with the actions of countries practicing safe operations in space. This puts the security of the domain and potentially our respective national security and ways of life at risk. This means the U.S., our allies, and our partners must balance our desire to preserve a stable and sustainable space environment with the need to protect our interests in space. For example, the PRC uses its Shijian series of satellites, the SJ-17, SJ-21, and its most recent version, the SJ-23, for what they term technological demonstrations. The SJ series is concerning because of its dual-use capability. From late December 2021 to late January 2022, the SJ-21 rendezvoused with a defunct PRC Beidou satellite, towed it to a disposal orbit, and then returned to its original orbit. This visible demonstration showcased both a technical competency and a high degree of tactical proficiency. You can use your imagination to see how this capability could be concerning to us, our allies, and our partners. But the PRC is not alone. Russia also continues to demonstrate irresponsible behavior. Specifically, according to reports, Russia is developing a concerning anti-satellite system designed to carry a nuclear weapon. In February 2022, Russia launched a satellite which the Russian Ministry of Defense claimed at the time was for testing onboard instruments and systems under the influence of radiation and heavy charged particles. However, we have observed that certain characteristics of this satellite are not in line with these stated purposes. All nations should be concerned that Russia may intend to put a nuclear weapon on orbit. Such a capability would cause indiscriminate effects and pose a threat to all satellites operated by countries and companies around the world, as well as to the vital communications and national security services we all depend upon. A nuclear detonation in outer space could cause devastating consequences for the world and for the global economy. It would affect all countries' national security and commercial satellites, including all nations' ability to use space as a driver for development. The U.S. is committed to ensuring that nuclear weapons are not placed in orbit, as is required of all parties to the Outer Space Treaty, of which Russia is a signatory. The U.S. will continue to engage with like-minded nations worldwide to ensure that Russia understands our views on a nuclear weapon in space. Threats such as those I just mentioned underscore the importance of solidifying partnerships to identify, isolate, call out, and deter this type of irresponsible behavior. Conflict in space is not inevitable, but we have a responsibility to be ready to protect and defend the domain and ensure continuous and uninterrupted support to the joint and combined force. To deter potential aggression against U.S., allied, and partner interests in a manner that contributes to strategic stability, we must collectively accelerate our transition to a more resilient space posture and strengthen our ability to detect and attribute hostile acts in space. In an effort to keep pace with the growing nature of threats, we have established several investment priorities at U.S. Space Command, and we look forward to sharing those with individual companies. But U.S. investment alone will not be enough. So we gather today in light of these threats. I look forward to opportunities to increase U.S.-India cooperation in the space domain. There are several ways I see this happening. First, I hope we can continue our ongoing cooperative discussions through the India Defense Conclave this November and the Raisina Dialogue next year. We also welcome India becoming a full participant this year in Exercise Global Sentinel 2025, just down the road at Vandenberg Space Force Base. We also encourage other advancements in ongoing civilian and defense space technology cooperation under the U.S.-India Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technology, or ICIT, chaired by the U.S. National Security Advisor and the Indian National Security Advisor. Under this initiative, we have secured a launch for the first ever joint effort between NASA and ISRO astronauts at the International Space Station. We have also developed a strategic framework for human spaceflight cooperation to deepen interoperability in space. ISAT has also driven continued preparation for the launch of the NASA-ISRO synthetic aperture radar satellite in an effort to combat shared global challenges. Additionally, under this initiative, the U.S. has launched a new partnership between the U.S. Space Force and two India-based startups focused on advancing space situational awareness, data fusion technologies, and infrared sensor semiconductor manufacturing. Finally, we hope that these initiatives pave the way for India's participation in NASA's Lunar Gateway program. But there are even more opportunities specific to the defense technology enterprise. We believe that the U.S. commercial space sector is an area in which we enjoy a wide and growing advantage over our strategic competitors. This advantage increases even more when we combine our strength with like-minded partners like India. This is also an area in which we have seen growth of U.S.-India cooperation in the space domain, particularly under the Advanced Domains Defense Dialogue, referred to as AD3, and with respect to commercial innovation in space technology. For example, at the February 2024 INDUS-X Summit, our Defense Innovation Unit and India and the Indian MOD's Innovations for Defense Excellence, IDEX, announced they would open applications for joint challenges to solve critical problems in the space domain. That challenge will be launched soon, and I hope many of you will apply. This effort will identify commercial technology solutions that address joint warfighting challenges and ultimately ensure the safety, security, stability, and sustainability of the domain. Also encouraging is INDUS-X's expanding network of academic and industry partnership initiatives, including the INDUS-Works testing consortium of companies and universities committed to opening their testing labs to more U.S. and India-based companies. But innovative thinking on future technologies is just one critical facet of our partnership. We also need to apply our collective brain power toward things like supply chain security, workforce development, and mechanisms for increased investment for both government and commercial entities. I think I share the sentiments of our national leadership when I say that I look forward to increased U.S.-India partnership and dialogue within the space domain. Since our initial bilateral space cooperation discussions in 2023, our partnership has grown significantly. And I believe continuing to develop this partnership will be critical to confronting the challenges we collectively face in space while seizing the opportunities we see there as well. So, to all of you here today, I would only offer one recommendation. Keep up the momentum INDUS-X has gained since its inception in 2023. Our competitors are advancing at breathtaking speeds, and we need ongoing collaboration to ensure we can keep pace and are collectively prepared to counter any threats we may need to confront. In closing, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. I'm hopeful that the conversations over the next 2 days will serve to advance the plans for how we can strengthen defense technology partnerships, fund defense innovation and resilient supply chains, and enable the workforce skills required to foster innovation. We believe the security of our domain depends on conversations like these. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I look forward to continuing to deepen U.S. and Indian partnerships in space going forward.